Stuart, some philosophers and virtually all mystics look to strange events that we would say, synchronicity, ESP, parapsychology, as hints or leakage of the non-physical world out there. Most scientists reject all of that as fraud or statistical error.
They're being very unscientific in doing that.
I don't want to address that because that's its own world. What I want to address is that if it were true, how would you explain it?
Non-locality, quantum non-locality. Quantum effects, quantum entanglement is inherently non-local, which means it disrespects spatial separation. Going back to Einstein's spooky action at a distance, entanglement. You have two particles that are complementary, that are in superposition. You send one over here, one over there. You make a measurement over here. This one immediately responds, immediately, instantaneously. That means any signal would have to go faster than the speed of light. Einstein didn't like this. He called it spooky action at a distance, described his thought experiments. Years later, it was shown. Now it's been proven over and over again. It's used as a basis for quantum teleportation, quantum cryptography. It's a fact.
All true, but what you cannot do is you cannot transfer information by that technique.
You can signal and correlate, and if you have a classical channel, you can affect meaningful information. It's a tricky business, but it can be done. Otherwise, quantum cryptography wouldn't be useful, and it is. And by the way, in entanglement, I was at the Royal Society meeting on quantum information that Roger Penrose invited me to in the late 90s. They were all talking about entanglement, how they could possibly explain this. And Roger drew a picture of the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen experiment where the two things separated and one goes here, one goes here. And he drew, and there was communication or signaling between the two. And he said, what it obviously must be is that the information goes from here backwards in time to when they were together, and then forwards in time.
You can do anything if you go backwards in time. All problems can be solved if you can allow backward causation through time.
And that happens in the quantum world. Well, it's a Pandora's box for classicalists, that's for sure. But there's no reason it happens in quantum physics. In fact, the passage of time itself is an illusion and probably created by consciousness. Second law of thermodynamics aside, the backward time effect has been shown experimentally. It's theoretically possible, and it happens.
The argument is that you are extrapolating from something that happens in the subatomic world that is very difficult to understand and bringing it into the macroscopic world in terms of our perception.
Microtubules do that, and Libet does that. Libet shows that in the brain with 500 milliseconds of backward time effect. It's been shown experimentally since the late 1970s.
Why isn't it accepted then? Why are you the only one to see this vision?
Well, not the only one. There are others, more and more all the time. And now that we have experimental results from Bandyapati and others, I think it should be more accepted. And Roger Penrose and I have a new paper coming out, a 20-year review.
Why isn't it more accepted?
Because everybody's invested in their own theory, and the assumption has been that the brain is too warm, wet, and noisy for quantum effects, because to build a quantum computer in a laboratory, you have to do it at absolute zero. Now we know that plants can do it in sunlight, that the microtubules can do it at warm temperature, and when that surfaces, and one thing will be when our paper comes out, when we confront all our critics and respond to all their assertions, then it should be accepted.
So what you're saying is that synchronicity, ESP, these kinds of things, parapsychology, could have a legitimate mechanism in what you would call the enlarged physical world.
In the quantum world, yes, I do.